It was Brian Phillips and Mike. Mike built a plane and he's gonna let me fly it like a crazy person. Right?
Yep.
And I already talked to him about this, but if I crash this, you promise not to kill me, right?
Yep.
He says it's a toy plane, and I'm like, you crazy. But anyway, we set up a Lemon stabilizer in this, and it's windy, and we're gonna maiden this plane right now. Mike, tell him a real brief update on what this plane is.
It's a Dancing Wings Sopwith Camel, 15-20 millimeters, built from a kit. So I built, start to finish building this in about 2 weeks.
He is a good builder, and I'm not, but we're gonna fly it right now. So stay tuned. We're gonna do a little bit more radio setup after the flight's done, if you're curious. So we'll pause and get set. All right, guys, here goes nothing. Throttle cuts off. We did set up takeoff flaps. I'm not gonna use them right now. And our stabilizer is currently on from the Lemon RX. Okay, here we go. Good taxi authority. She got plenty of power, slow flight, and she's in the air. Everything feels okay. Boy, that thing flies slower than I thought. We're full throttle here. Just kind of taking it around. Got the gains about 60% on our R3 knob. Boy, that thing looks really nice up there, doesn't it, camera crew?
It does. That's gorgeous.
Here it comes. Little bit of yaw moment there. I gotta try to get that trimmed out. Hard on the throttle. Getting my trim for the tail. There we go. Finally got her going straight. A little bit too much gain. Okay, so we're gonna do the same exact angle here. Going through the trees here. Oh man, that thing looks good against the clouds. Okay, lots of elevator. I'm just gonna pitch that over and give myself a little bit of trim down. You know what we need, Mike? A little bit more battery would help. A little more weight. Yeah, she's doing okay. There you go. Lots of authority on the ailerons, but she feels tame. Everything about it is flying good. The stabilizer is keeping up great, turning it down in fact. A little bit of rudder mixed in there, and she's just doing great. How's she look to you?
Looks like a 1917.
Beautiful underside. Oh yes, thank you, Mother Nature, for some sun. The only thing I don't like is that we are at near full throttle, about 90% throttle here. Yeah, needs just a little bit more juice. Camera crew, you good where you are? Mm-hmm. I think I want to try to stay where we are, if that's okay. Mike, are you comfortable? I'm going to try to go down the runway here. Guys, we don't fly a lot of stick-built planes here on Brian Phillips RC just because time doesn't allow for our format. But what an absolute joy and beauty. Whoa! That is what I was afraid of. So throttle cuts on, and we are gonna go see how bad we screwed it up. Okay guys, we're gonna show you how bad it is because it's embarrassing to crash, but it's even worse when it's somebody else's plane. The crazy thing is, I'm walking up thinking, holy cow, it could look worse, and it kind of like really doesn't even look broken. What the heck?
Did Snoopy survive?
Oh, the landing gear broke. A little bit.
Push that block in.
Okay, so we're just gonna flip it over. Oh, we lost the servo. Yeah. That servo. And then what else?
That is surprisingly...
Okay, I'm gonna lift this up.
Right on the wheel.
Let's see if it lays on its wheels. Is that okay, Mike? Oh, it looks like it's pushed up.
It pushed one of the landing gear blocks up right here. See right here?
Ah, yes, I see. So guys, this is what happens when you're flying somebody else's plane. Is the unexpected typically does happen. And to be honest with you, it's not bad.
No, a little bit of epoxy, it'll be back together.
But I'm gonna tell you something. When you get into a new plane and you get into sync like that, sometimes you don't have enough elevator. And I hate to say it, but I think that's what I ran into.
Well, maybe a little bit more power.
A little bit more power. Hey, you know what? We just did a plane the other day, and what was our #1 complaint?
Power.
Power. And what does power do? Power saves RC planes' lives. Now, that's not to say I didn't make any mistakes there, but let's get right down to it. if there was more power, it would have been easier to avoid that.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's not so bad. I don't feel like I destroyed it.
No, and you know, there's 15-mile-an-hour wind blowing around too.
Yeah.
So
True. You know what's weird? Feel how the wind is here? There's no wind here. Go up to the top of that. There's tons of wind there.
yeah, and so your airspeed went from 15, 20, 30 mile an hour to 5.
Yep.
When the airplane dipped.
And that's what you expect to happen. And so we are super grateful that Mike let us crash his plane today.
Hey,
So,
landing gear is all that's broken. I'm happy with that.
so I was gonna say, I was expecting much worse. Now, is the rudder broke? Let's see if the rudder broke.
Nope.
Nope.
Elevator.
Just the servo.
Servo. Yeah.
One servo. One servo. Not bad. And you know what? I can already tell which gear burned out because I did that to one of my planes not too long ago. So it really kills me that we broke it, but at the same time, guys, that's part of the hobby. And if you can get somebody to talk you into flying their plane, just remember, always get the disclaimer on camera. So if you want to see how we set up the radio to crash this for you on Brian Phillips RC, all you need to do is stay tuned. We've got it coming next. Thanks, Mike. You promised you wouldn't murder me.
I'm not going to.
It's on camera.
You're buying the epoxy.
Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks, Mike. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We have something new and exciting to show you. You guys may be familiar that we use lots of these wonderful things, these Spectrum high quality transmitters, receivers, and we really like them, okay? But every once in a while, you'll run into a situation where you need to save a few dollars so you don't end up in the doghouse, and so you'll buy something like this, which is a Lemon, and it's just a cheap, non-stabilized DSMX compatible receiver, or this, the newer version, which is coming from Lemon RX. This is a 10-channel with telemetry and stabilization, which is pretty crazy. Now, if you look closely on this, it does actually have 10 pluggable channels. And so we had a cool opportunity. Of course, we're gonna still use our NX10 because that's what we're used to, that's what we like. We know the feel, we like the touch of it, and we're used to it, which is incredibly helpful if you're new to the hobby. Set your switches the same, be ready to fly it the same way on every plane, as close as you can get, and every once in a while you have some changes. But we're gonna show you a cool special today, and that is we're gonna introduce you really quick to the maker of this beauty right here, which is the Sopwith Camel, and it is in the Roy Brown, Captain Roy Brown livery, and here's Mike. Mike wants to tell you all about it.
It's a Dancing Wings kit, 1500 millimeter. It's
Which is also known as huge.
yeah. So it flies on a 4S 5000, and yeah, it's one of my many kits I like building. So really enjoy them.
So Mike loves building kits, and he hit us up a few months ago, and he said, hey, I want to get together and have you fly some of our planes. And I'm like, are you crazy? Because letting somebody else fly your planes is you know, something that you only do when you're willing to let somebody else crash your planes. And I just wanted to have it on camera that he told me. What did you tell me when I said, what if I crash your plane?
I'll just build another one. And you're, you know,
This is what he said. I mean, he's seen our channel.
in
He knows what
reality,
happens.
it only took me 2 weeks to build this thing. So from the time I opened the kit until
Look
the
at the
time
wood.
it was ready to fly, it was 2 weeks.
This
Now it
is
hasn't
so
flown
cool.
yet.
And then show him just, okay, talk about this coat. Talk about this coating.
So the covering is Aura Tex that's available Horizon,
And show him the bottom.
and
You can see kind of through it.
you can see through it. And then the top was painted olive drab using just a Krylon camo paint that people use to paint their blinds and their boats. Just in a dull, I think it's called Army Green.
And then show them the prop. I need to talk about the prop because we're gonna be flying on this prop. Oh, and then real quick before I forget to mention it, 4S 5000 is how he set this up. Now you'll notice this is not a smart pack. And you're like, but Brian, you have smart packs. Yes, I understand, but this is Mike's plane. And so we're gonna use this battery. We'll link to this or something that's similar. And then this prop is, Mike, this is a 13.8, correct?
Yeah.
And then what do you have on here? Let's talk about that.
That is a
prop.
14, I think it's a 14.6 Zor wooden prop that's scale to this plane. It actually is a little smaller in scale, but it should fly on that. We don't necessarily fly it on that.
And then who's the pilot?
The pilot is Snoopy.
Yes, but this is only a simulated Snoopy.
Yeah, it's a simulated Snoopy.
Yes, that's right.
Bought on Amazon, so it's nothing special, but you can buy it directly on Amazon.
That's right. So we'll link to some stuff if you guys want to help support us. Obviously, Mike has been so kind. He drove up here from another state, and he is here to let us fly his stuff. So that tells you just a little bit about his psyche.
And the biggest question I get when I post pictures on forums and stuff is, how do I do the graphics? And those are all done by my camera crew, my wife.
Yes.
On her Cricut.
Yep. Nice. And Megan also has a Cricut, and you guys may have remembered the camera crew played a small part doing most of the work on our Airbus 380. And she made some incredible, extremely meticulously small Rolls-Royce logos on the nacelles. And I remember that plane, and it is in a loving new home now. But this plane is awesome, and so we wanted to showcase this thing because he brought it, and he was so kind to let us fly it, and I don't know why he is, but he's gonna let us do it. Now he's gonna open up the hood, and we're gonna show you where he mounted the receiver. And this is, so Mike, tell us just a very short story about coming back to the hobby, because you told me this on the phone, but I want to share it with the audience, just because you're like exactly who we reach on this channel. So there are real humans out there.
Yeah, exactly. You talk to me all the time. I actually soloed my first airplane on a Great Plains Trainer 40 in 1988. And it was by some legends in my area that flew at that time. Soloed me then, and I flew until I was in high school. It's got interesting girls, so these toys had to go away.
They got distracted. See what happens?
You missed it. Okay.
Yeah. Then I came back when my kids were little, so early 90s or mid 90s, and I flew pretty heavy, but it was all still glow, and I was flying, there's a lot of kits still. There was a few ARFs out there, but they were expensive, and there was no bind and fly and plug and play.
Didn't exist, right?
No.
And then what type of crystals did you use?
Originally in the 80s, we were flying on Futaba Gold radios and craft kits, okay?
Right.
And they were AM.
Yep.
Okay, then they went through and changed that to FM, and you had to get them all converted.
Yeah.
We got out about the time they converted to FM, but when I got back in the 90s, I went all in and got a JR 8103.
You had a nice transmitter.
Which would do, I think, 8 or 10 models, which was unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
But you still had them all on the same frequency, and you still had to
250 models now.
And the biggest thing coming back that was crazy to me is you walk out there, you turn your transmitter on. I'm used to it being in an impound. When we did it, because everybody was on the same frequency, there's only a dozen frequencies.
Yep. And you had to hang your little clip so that you could tell what channel you were on.
If somebody turned their radio on your frequency, you were crashing.
Frequency hopping is built into DSMX, DSM2, DSM. That was a new technology. And that eliminated that entire step.
And now you look at some of, on YouTube, you see these battles like at Flight Fest, they do the combat, and there's hundreds of airplanes in there, and that was you couldn't do that.
You couldn't do that. It was dangerous. People would come up with CBs and they would turn them on and intentionally crash your plane.
Yep.
Because people are evil.
Yeah, especially in the AM days. AM days, it was notorious. We used to get what's called hits, and you'd be flying along and you'd see the airplane just go boom and get hit like that, and you're like, and everybody going, I got a hit, and everybody's checking radios, make sure nothing's turned on. So it's a lot of change in technology.
Now we just have to be careful when we're binding.
Yeah, and not
because
drop
if
it.
you're at the field and you're binding, you want to make sure you get bound to your plane and you don't chop Johnny's hand off down there, okay?
Yeah.
Because we talk about safety, and yes, we have this prop we're going to put on. So guys, this is, and I don't mean to cut you off, Mike, but basically when we do this stuff on channel, we just want you guys to know this is like all part of a bigger scope of what we do. And there are thousands of people just like Mike and just like you, they go out and fly, and we love this stuff, and we aren't doing it in a vacuum, but it seems like it sometimes on the channel. But we love interacting with our audience. And so it's really cool that Mike, thanks for coming up here, by the way.
No problem.
And so, okay, so flash forward a little bit further, and you're getting back into the hobby. I don't want to give too much of the story away.
I'm getting back into the hobby, and so what I did was I actually, after the 90s, I got I did the hobby for a while, and it got a little cumbersome and with the kids and everything. And my kids and I've always raced motorcycles. I raced motocross when I was young.
Yeah.
And then we got back into racing woods bikes, hare scrambles, enduros in the woods with my kids. And then, so the models all fell aside again.
Yep.
And I did that for up until 2 years ago. Well, actually last year, Thanksgiving was my what I call my retirement race. Maybe temporarily retired, you know, you have to change stuff every couple of years, but it's, I have some shoulder issues and some other things that as my age is I'm getting closer to the big 50.
So you're saying that as you get older, things break?
Yeah, you don't heal as fast. And I've had my shoulders repaired several times, and I'm to the point now when I just driving the tractor around, my shoulder will pop out and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got to get it repaired again. And
So you don't have to use your shoulder to fly airplanes?
some of the airplanes I pick up, sometimes it pops.
Oh, come on. You were supposed to say it's easy on your shoulders.
It is. It's much safer than what I was doing. All
That's
right?
true. That's right.
So I actually, in convincing myself that I was pulling the trigger to retire from motorcycle racing for temporarily or permanent, whatever it is, I went, and that's when I bought another airplane kit. And I was like, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to do this. And after 3 weeks of building on it, and it was a bigger plane than this, it was done. And I'm like, my wife's like, apparently you enjoy doing this still. And so then I got this one. This is the second kit I built since I've been back. And this one was done in 2 weeks.
Which is incredible, guys, because we've built some planes and it's taken us a week to do pretty much ARFs or ARF pluses. And so to do this in 2 weeks is incredibly fast.
Yeah.
So you're doing something right now. Also, I think the finish is really good on this. And for those of you that don't appreciate the skill and the art of building, we do a lot of foamies, show them the foamies. And I'm just gonna say this right now. Those are not all foamies, by the way. There's a couple balsa wood planes in there. This is just the ones we've done in the last few weeks. We love doing foamies, but remember, there's a whole nother thing there. And if you guys are still into it, and I know you guys are, and some of you are screaming at the monitors saying, finally, Brian, and I understand because we hear your comments, we listen to you, we have our fingers on the pulse of the YouTube channel and our audience, but the thing is, we just can't show this type of build. It's impossible for us to film it. And there's others that have done a really good job of doing reviews of ARFs, and so we just don't do that space. Not because we don't love it, it's that it's just not practical for our environment. But for you, Mike, you love this, and you have a work-at-home job. You're able to slip away and do 10 minutes of building after you've had to drop a few select special parameters on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
And you need to go calm down before you get in trouble. And so you go down and take out your frustrations on the plane.
You're exactly right. And Dancing Wings did an awesome job on the kit for this. The laser cutting, you can almost snap this airplane together without glue.
Right.
It's not perfect, and kit builders will know that,
Yeah.
but it's a kit, so you have to be a builder.
Yep. And it takes skill, guys. It's not like it's not a puzzle. Most of it's a puzzle, and then a few parts are like, did they like go to sleep when they were planning this?
Yeah.
Did the
Or they
engineer
just
get
didn't
fired?
they just didn't finish that
Yeah.
part. Well, but the art of building a kit is knowing that when you're doing something, and my wife always says this, she goes, you have to not only build that to look cool, it has to fly.
Yeah, it has to fly. So you have to think, how heavy is this going to be? Is that adhesive going to stand the test of a bad landing? By Brian Phillips RC, which is really, really crazy. But anyway, these things happen. And so then the covering, you have to think about, am I going to be able to get to that? When do I need access to that opening? And these are the types of things. Now, you guys may not know this, but I've done a few kits over the years, but we haven't flown them on this channel. And they're hanging in my kids' rooms. And I used to work with my grandpa doing this, and he would build them, and he loved it, and he's passed now. But we had a great couple of years working together, electrifying the planes. He always called them electrifying the planes. But I could never convince him to fly. And so he just loved watching us fly. So that was a cool experience. And so this is an intergenerational hobby that you can love with your family, and you can get into something. And when you see the price tag of something like this, you're probably going to try to fall out of your chair. But to be honest with you, your JR cost more than this, probably.
It did.
Because this is what, about $600 or so? So your JR probably cost what, $800 or $1,000?
The JR, when I bought it new, of course it came with receiver and servos.
Yeah, right.
But it was Yeah, it was probably $800. And back then, the other thing, servos,
Yeah.
even you know, not inflation adjusted, they were $30 a piece.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, and
Now, granted, those are a little bit bigger too, because we are into
Yeah.
smaller planes now.
it was standard servos.
Yeah,
is what they
standard
called it.
servos. You'd be talking like maybe a 15 to 30 gram servo.
It was
They were
like
bigger. Well, but
45
the
grand.
electronics were bigger too.
Yeah, everything was bigger,
Yep.
and you realize that when you go to convert. Because I still had some of my old gas planes,
Yep.
like my dad's glider, because this is generational for me too. My grandfather taught my dad to fly control line and push pulse radio control, where you actually are putting pulses in to tell the airplane to do
So
things.
instead of a discrete control where this is 8%, this is 17%, this is 100%, you have to go like.
It was basically Morse code to fly your airplane. They did that, and then my dad got me into this when, you know, I was, like I said, I soloed when I was 10.
Yeah.
So I started flying basically when I was 8.
So you've been an addict for many years, but he has been in recovery a couple of different times. We're trying to bring him out of recovery, get him back into the addiction.
Oh, I'm in it.
And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RCs. We help people realize I mean, first of all, when you first heard about new technology, you were like, screw that. I got to buy more crap. That's what you thought, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I thought too when I came back. But you know what? I am glad that they came out with this stuff because it takes a lot of the irritating parameters out. Now, there is the China things that we have to deal with, and we all get that, and that is a reality of the application. But at the end of the day, guys, this hobby is in full force, and it's not waiting for you to come back, but you should be part of it because it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I'm here is because at your recommendation, I got the new Lemon RX in here with the stabilization, and I set it up the best I know how, but
we're going to help him finish it up. We're going to make sure the stabilizer works. Now, Mike doesn't need a stabilizer. He certainly doesn't need auto leveling, so I don't even think we're going to bother with auto level.
No.
But what I can tell you is this. If you end up buying the Lemon RX, it's new for us too. We used to do Lemon RX before, but we're just going to walk through it together. It's going to be like Brian Phillips style, stumble our way into a success. Hopefully nobody gets cut. Hopefully nobody sets any batteries on fire. But at the end of the day, this thing is going to be flying for your viewing pleasure. Now, I assume we'll be watching this part at the end because we want the money shot at the beginning when everybody gets to see this beautiful Sopwith Camel in the air. Because really, these things are beautiful and they speak for themselves when you see them flying. But then the guys that are really into it are going to want to know what you did on this plane.
And just for the record, you can look at this plane and you'll see things on it that aren't perfect. But that's the joy for me of a kit, is every flaw in this I did. And I build airplanes, and there's some modelers out there, and I get that way every now and then when I build some airplanes that go down to every little detail and I mean, make museum pieces, and that's not what this airplane is to me. This airplane,
wants to fly it.
I want to fly it.
Yep. And it still looks like a museum piece to me.
I want to fly it, and when it's going by me, you know, 10 feet away, wherever I'm flying from myself, I want it to look real.
Yeah.
Except for Snoopy.
Except for Snoopy.
Or the Snoopy
So
analog.
What we're going to do now is we're going to spend a couple of minutes and we're going to go through setting this up. Now, hey, real quick moment, just if you like Spectrum, and we do, okay, it's a lot easier to set up a Spectrum setup. And I talked to Mike about this, and we said, yeah, but, you know, like this one's maybe in the 80s. This one's maybe in the 40s. Okay, now I did admittedly, this one's a little bit nicer than the one that he picked because it's got the battery adapter, okay? So we actually had Lemon sent these a while back, and we haven't had a great opportunity to try it. So he actually ended up putting that in, and so we're like, hey, we'll show how it works. And then if you guys ever decide to do this, it's a little bit more money, and the trade-off in the hobby, and you can speak to this a little bit, Mike, too, if you want, but really the trade-off is if you buy the more expensive technology, sometimes it's easier, but it is more expensive. So some people have a little bit more money to give and they need a little more help. So if you're new, you might want to go here. If you got a little bit more experience and you want to try to adapt that, save a few bucks, go here. But what I'm not saying, and I want you guys to hear this when I say this carefully, don't get the cheaper one because you don't have the money and you don't have the skill, okay? The skill is required to bridge the gap. And we're going to try to help you do that. But just understanding one thing, when you do the cheaper option or the cheaper option, sometimes you need a little bit more skill to supplement. So just hear me clearly when I say that. because Ford programming is the cat's meow. It is so easy that you can set up whatever wing type you want. You can get your AS3X and safe setup in minutes. It's very easy. But like I said, it's money in the bank, you know, versus skills in your head, okay? And you don't get both. If you get both, you get bad results, and that's when you crash it. I'm not gonna crash this plane, you know? I'm gonna make sure it's going right before I even think about taking off.
Yep.
And Mother Nature's not playing very nice right now either.
Well,
it's blowing that windsock.
it's blowing pretty hard, yeah.
So anyway, guys, all right, getting into it. So we're gonna turn on the transmitter, and it's gonna bring up whatever plane we recently had. I'm not sure how things are gonna fall out, but I'm sure this isn't gonna be giving anything away. So it comes up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna build a new profile, and Mike can actually watch in person. He's used to watching our videos, but now he gets to see in real life how this happens. Okay, so we're gonna click, we're gonna scroll down to System Setup, disconnect RF, go down to Model Select, add new model. That's an acro. You could also select different styles of planes, or a template, or a bind and fly. I don't do any of those things on this channel because you can figure it out if you want to do it yourself that way. Create. Templates are a great way to start if you do everything the same way like I do, okay? But I don't teach how to do that because I'm teaching you how to do each individual plane that we run into, okay? So you'll notice it also takes some time. When you have about 150, 160 models, it takes longer than if you had 2. Okay, so model type is what we already set. Okay, if you reset that, it's gonna clear everything, okay? Model name, this is where we type it. Okay, so we would normally pause here, so we'll cancel and come right back. Okay, so we've got the Sopwith Camel 1520, and we'll walk out of this menu. Aircraft type, we've got one aileron, we've got a normal conventional tail, and then we'll go into next and we'll select image, standard image, and we'll scroll over to the biplane. That's pretty close. And then basically what we're gonna do is, I don't know if we have to do any flight modes yet. We'll kind of figure that out as we go. Guys, if you need to set up different trims in your different flight, that is where you would set it. You would set that and then activate it to whatever switch is gonna activate, say, your stabilizer versus your auto leveling versus your whatever, okay? So we're not gonna use that now, and we're just not gonna mess with channel assign yet because we don't know enough about this. Also, first thing we're gonna do is throttle cut. We need to know we can trust this plane for safety. That's something that Mike and I definitely agree on, which is good. And it's a very, very easy way to keep your hands from being chopped up. If you chop your hands, you're not gonna be flying for a little bit, so please don't do that. Okay, throttle curve, we're not gonna mess with. Let's go ahead and set up a timer. Do you know about how long you expect this to fly? Maybe 5 minutes, 3 minutes?
At least. With that big pack, it should be, we upsized the pack for the weight, not for the flight, so it should be probably 10 minutes.
So we'll set for 5. We'll do a battery check. We'll also put a low voltage alarm in.
Yep.
Okay. Activate on the 1 out time, and then that means when we break the threshold of 25%, it starts the timer and counts down.
There's telemetry.
And there is telemetry too, which we're gonna set.
Pack voltage is in this.
So we'll see how that works. At 1 minute, we're gonna do a voice alarm, nothing at 20, 10-second countdown with voice, and then expiration, tone and vibrate, and a tone every minute thereafter. And backing out, we should be at the point now where we can go ahead and get ready to bind. I'm gonna clear my timer because I started it in that demonstration. Throttle cuts on. And are we okay to go ahead and test setup with the nice prop for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So our next move, guys, is we have to bind, okay? So now this Lemon RX, am I okay to tip this up?
Yeah.
So if we look here, guys, is that hitting the, no, we're good, we're clear.
You're fine.
Okay, so what we've got here on this is there's 2 buttons, and I can't tell which one does bind.
There's 3, and it's the front one.
It's the front one, it says B,
Yeah.
okay? And there is telemetry. Now his telemetry option, he was just had to stab into the actual power line, and he's installed an XT60, which is perfectly fine. You can install an XT60 on your ARFs or your kits, and what that does for you is it gets you a reasonable amount of current pass through on a 4S, but you can have an IC3, you can have an EC3, or you can have an XT60. And that's why I would prefer, if you're gonna guess, if you know you're using an IC3, go for it. But truthfully, I wouldn't do it unless I'm putting an AV and ESC in there, because you want to be able to go between those different models. Now also, the new XT60s are admittedly harder to cram in with an IC3 because the IC3 is a beefy connector. And as you can see, Mike is using an EC3. So the EC3 does cram into an XT60 easier because there's less plastic around those. Okay, so we got our model ready. We're gonna go ahead and bind. So with your blessing, Mike, I'm gonna have you go ahead and load the battery. He's got a special way he designed this, and I'll move my transmitter out of the way. Now we're not gonna plug it in just quite yet, but he's got a very special way, and he used some wonderful shelf liner in that plane. Where did you get that idea, Mike?
I don't know. I had Velcro in here, and then when I found out it was coming here,
He quickly put some shelf liner in just so I wouldn't be offended.
I went in and robbed the wife's shelf liner.
Yeah, that's right. And so now his silverware are going everywhere every time he slams the drawer.
Well, luckily we had a couple rolls in the camper to keep everything moving around. So,
but that stuff is no joke, guys. Very nice. It is like the easiest way to keep your battery step. Okay, so real quick shot from the camera crew so you can see where it sits. And then I'm gonna tip this plane up and show you what it looks like on the other side. Okay, and I'm just being meticulously careful because this is a beauty. See where the battery is, folks? We're right there. So that is one trick. Now, the other thing is you said you added almost a pound of nose weight to this because the Dancing Wings model was created with a way long Uggo nose.
yes, and this is more close to scale.
Yeah.
I actually measured this off of a photo of a real airplane and compared it to the wing strut to get that there. The challenge with that is you don't have the leverage to get the weight forward. So
In front of your wheels and also the center of gravity.
it did add to the weight of the plane, but the plane's got so much wing surface, I wasn't too worried about that.
Let's see the CG too. Where is your CG? Did you mark it?
Yeah, those black marks
Okay,
right there.
so the black mark. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lift this up if you don't mind, Mike. Oh, we don't have Snoopy in there. Would you throw Snoopy in loose?
Sure.
Doesn't need to be totally snapped. That's good. Look how gorgeous that CG is, folks. Amazing. That should be great. And you really got that spot on. So go ahead and pull Snoopy out. So now our next move is, because we don't trust this plane yet, we need to be careful not to get cut. You don't want to get cut on the flight line. You don't want to get cut at home. You definitely don't want to get cut on camera. Throttle cut's on. I don't trust this plane yet because I didn't make it. And even if I did make it, I wouldn't trust it. So we have to be careful. These planes are awkward because there's no good way to get your hands in. You see what I've done? Show the people from the side. If I hug this thing, I have a way to brace this plane. Worst case scenario, it starts. I got my shirt tail on the edge of the counter so I don't get cut. And I'm not gonna do this because that would be dumb and unusual. So I am in a place where I can plug it in. This should default to not on, but I don't trust electronics until I trust electronics, okay? So in with the battery. Okay, listening. I'm gonna get my hands out, secure the plane in case it tries to take off toward my TV. It's clearly not starting, which is what we want. Camera crew, make sure you're safe. Mike, make sure you're safe. I've got my hand here bracing. Throttle cut is on. I'm gonna press the bind button. There's a red light, can you see that? I'm gonna press it.
Yep.
Okay, do you have to hold or just press it momentarily?
I don't remember.
Oh, there we go. I pressed it for a few seconds, went to a flashing red light. Now I can turn this off, press and hold this and power it back on, or I can click, scroll down to bind, and bind that way. Okay, so it's gonna bind failed. Okay, so I don't know if I did something wrong yet, or if we just don't have it in the right mode, so I'm gonna try one more time.
Yeah, try holding a little bit further away.
Bind failed. Okay, so now, do we happen to know what the fast flash versus the slow flash is?
No, I don't. I used a bind plug when I bound it.
Oh, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and de-energize the aircraft. Okay, we're gonna try this one more time. If you have a failed bind, it's no big deal, just figure out what you did wrong. Now it's still in that flashing mode. So my guess is that might not actually be what I think it is, but we're gonna try one more time.
I do have one of those crazy instruction manual things too.
Oh yeah, okay. So in that case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just press it momentarily and see if the status light changes. It doesn't. Okay, so now the other thing we can do is we can actually bind. I'm gonna press and hold this again and see if it changes the state of the light. You note that the whole time we're doing this, we're securing the plane, or we're in quick access to securing the plane if the prop would start. Okay, so we don't have it yet, so we're gonna come right back and see what we can figure out. Okay, so we're gonna use this bind plug right now. We're gonna slide this in and just verify we're in bind mode. Okay, so I plugged it in. Now I'm gonna de-energize and re-energize. De-energize. I'm gonna actually just shut off my trusty transmitter here. Make sure your correct model is selected when you're turning it off, by the way. Okay, we're gonna go back to the old-fashioned style. Oops. Okay, so we're plugged in. Now we definitely see the slow flash. I'm gonna press and hold the bind button while powering, then let go of the power button while still holding the bind button. Bind failed. Okay, so we might need to dig in a little bit and we'll come right back again. Okay, so we refer to the instructions and we think we did it right. We're just gonna hold the camera up, and if you guys need to look over the instructions, it starts kind of here and then goes here. You can look at that, but we're gonna unpause now and continue. So basically what we've got is we got the bind failed. I think what I'm gonna do is do a little more distance like Mike suggested. We have been sort of spoiled with the Spectrum. We could bind right next to it. So it's unusual to see this. What we're gonna do is just plug it back in. Okay, so, and it is in a solid state, and we don't have the bind plug in, so I'm gonna press and hold the bind button. Okay, now it goes to a flash. Now, Mike is gonna come around and just secure the plane in case something crazy happens. And I'm gonna walk way back here, folks. I'm gonna scroll down to bind. Safe? Okay. Bind failed still. I don't know why it won't bind. So I know there's a couple other things that can sometimes happen, but I'm just gonna keep trying. Bind failed, okay? So now I'm gonna go down to system settings. No, I wanna see if I can find frame rate. Automatic default 22 milliseconds. Hybrid, automatic. Force DSM2. Let's go to Force DSM2 and see if it goes, okay? Bind failed. Okay, I'm gonna just go back further. So guys, I'm way back here now. Got it. Watch your hands, be aware. So now it's auto configuring. So we didn't do anything wrong there, and I'm gonna actually rebind that in DSMX. Okay, so we just needed more distance. That is an incredible amount of distance that we need.
Yeah.
So if you got a lemon, you'll know. Okay, so this is why we film things, so you guys can see. So now I'm gonna scroll back down to bind. I'm gonna go up, excuse me, I'm gonna go to, where was that? That was under system setup, disconnect RF, and then it was under frame rate, force DSM2, automatic. You'll notice it stops being bound, okay? You hear the beep? Okay, go ahead and press that button again. We're looking for a solid red. It's gonna go to a flash. Okay, now we got a heartbeat. You get this, Mike? Okay, I'm gonna go way back here now that we've established about what we need for distance. I'm gonna go back to the bind screen. Bind failed. Try again. If it doesn't go, I'll go to the other side of the room. Okay, I'm gonna go a little closer now. Bind, binding, bind failed. So it doesn't wanna bind to DSMX for some reason. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep trying a few more times. Very weird, but it does bind to DSM2 and I'm fine with it. So I guess in this case, we're gonna go ahead and do DSM2 again. So if you guys didn't pick up on that, when you failed, you can go straight up to frame rate. From automatic, you go to force DSM2, okay? And then you can go bind. Let's see if it works. Now, same thing, a little bit more distance. Once you've got RF working, RF tends to repeat itself. Caught it. Auto config for telemetry. Okay, so did you have that problem on your DX6E?
No.
Okay, Mike flies on a DX6E. He's really would like to have an NX8, so we're gonna try to help him with that, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so now that we're bound, everybody is gonna test throttle. You good, Mike?
Yep.
Okay, so throttle cut is currently on. No movement when I move the throttle stick. Throttle cut is now off. That was a lot of pages. Throttle cut's on and it's tested, okay? So I can now trust the electronic speed controller. And I also notice a large disparity in ailerons and only one working, okay?
Oh,
So there's ailerons,
I did. put
elevator,
it on separate channels. I told you.
yaw. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about ailerons because the wing type that was picked,
I
okay?
was wrong.
Hey, it's okay. This is why we're doing this, Mike. So you'll notice that this aileron is moving, okay? And it's moving the right way. That aileron is not, okay? So my guess is it's tied to one of these others. Yep, so you can see it's on whatever channel D is attached to, so probably auxiliary 2.
6, aux 1.
So I'm gonna put this in the middle so we don't damage the servo in the meantime. Also, I'm gonna look through the different modes by scrolling over to the monitor mode, okay? So I can see all these different channels. Auxiliary 5 is one of my sliders that I don't use and we won't be tapping into on this plane. Okay, but just remember auxiliary 3 is an amplitude by default on your gyro or your stabilizer for a Lemon RX receiver. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just go through and verify direction of travel. That is backward. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go to servo setup. I'm gonna go to travel, scroll over to reverse on elevator. Elevator's reverse. Now we have up is up, down is down. Yaw left, okay, so that's backward too. Just a simple click of the switch. And if you wanna be where you can see too, Mike, you're fine. Okay, so there's yaw left, yaw right. Okay, perfect. And obviously we have elevator up, elevator down. Then we have yaw left, right. We have roll left, roll right. So this one's working. So really the choice becomes, we use 2 servos and then we go ahead and make the assignments. I'm totally fine with that. And then we can set up flaperons if you want.
I think just change the wing type to 2 aileron and I think we're done. We don't need flaperons on this, I don't think.
Okay, so
I know you love
I
them,
can tell that Mike has not watched our channel long enough.
I know you love flaperons.
System setup. So what we're gonna do is what you don't hear is the thousands of people that are gonna beat me over the head if I don't do it. So we are gonna set up flaperons and not use them, okay? So normal, we're gonna scroll over to dual aileron or flaperon. Flaperon's much easier to set if you're gonna do that, and I wanna see how Lemon handles it. So now I'm gonna scroll over 1 channel. We don't need to protect it anymore. I trust the throttle channel now. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna look and see. Okay, we're not attached to switch D anymore, which is nice by default, folks. So I'm gonna put that back to its normal position. Now I'm gonna move the ailerons. Oh boy, look at this. Okay, so we're moving. Now, you notice the little jumpiness? I have seen that, that's not unusual on the Lemon response, okay? Don't think it's gonna translate to bad flight performance. Trust me, guys, trust me. I've not seen that before causing a problem in flight, but I do notice that there's a little bit more jumpiness here than I'm used to, okay? So, roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right. Always check the direction of your throws when you make a change, especially wing type, because it may actually reassign where your stuff is plugged in, okay? So this is Spectrum, you have to work within their realm. Okay, now let's talk about flap mode. I know you don't want flaps, I'm setting them up anyway. So click, we're gonna set up flaps. We probably won't even use them, but I'm gonna set it for switch B, and then I'm gonna go in here and I'm just gonna set a little bit up and a little bit down because we don't know what direction they're gonna move. So now I'm gonna move, okay? So now we know that negative is going down, and I don't wanna overdrive his servos. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to, looks like we're actually okay. And then the full up position, obviously we don't want that above 0, so I'm gonna click. I'm gonna clear that to 0. And then would you mind if I mechanically trim this straight here?
Yeah, we can mechanically do it, or I was using the sub trims to keep a little bit of chatter out of the center of those servos.
Okay, so I got -7, and then take off flaps. Let's do just a little teeny bit. And like we suggested earlier, we may not end up using this, but I'm just gonna get things centered mechanically by doing that, okay? Now, I'm gonna set a little bit of elevator correction, probably 6%, and I'm gonna show you the trick of the day, guys. Go over what you think you need, and then look at the surface. Look at the surface, okay? Let's talk about this. Outboard ailerons are not the same as inboard flaps. The response of your elevator is backward on an outboard flaperon, okay? So come back around. So what we wanna do is we wanna look at this and, oh, that's the way you would do it. See this? That's the way you would do it if you had inboard flaps, but we don't. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this the other direction. Now I overran it so I could see it very clearly and visually. I'm gonna clear it. I'm gonna go about like -10 and then about -6. So now this should be going up. Take off flaps up slightly, landing flaps up slightly more, okay? So everything is golden there. We got elevator up, we got elevator down, we got yaw left, yaw right, roll left, roll right. Now we've got a little bit of disparity here.
We can do
now,
manual.
and what Mike was using was sub trims to apply a little bit of output on those surfaces to hold them tight, because there's a little bit of play in the mechanism of the setup, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk out of the menu.
Do you want to do a deployment on your flaps? 2 seconds.
Yes, thank you. We'll do that speed to, actually we'll do 3 seconds on it. It's a big plane. And that's gonna help me to see a balloon and respond to it quickly, okay? And I'm actually gonna go 6 and 12. How about that? 6 and 12 minus, okay? All right, so now the next thing we have to do is, because this is not a model I built, I'm not aware of it yet, I've got those all the way down. I'm gonna roll and just make sure we're not gonna overdrive servos. Now with takeoff flaps, roll, okay? And I'm gonna actually, you know what? I've changed my mind on the flaps a little bit. I wanna go a little bit less on takeoff. I wanna go to like minus 25. Okay, so it's just hardly any, okay? Now, don't use this as your gauge, use that one, because that's started centered. And then we got barn doors to really help slow it down. Again, you won't need them on this plane. Mike is just over here laughing to himself because he knows you won't need them, because this thing is gonna take off in like 2 feet. And look at the angle of incidence on the wings. Okay, even when you get that tail up, this thing is just gonna take off in no time, okay? So really cool. Now what we need to do is we need to go into servo setup. We're gonna go from travel to sub trim. And now what I wanna do is actually the trick of the day is to go over here, excuse me, go over to here, and you can actually move your surfaces and you can see what's happening. You see how the screens update and refresh the right aileron and left aileron. So now the key is we need to know which one's changing what direction, okay? Because I need to know, am I changing this channel or am I changing this channel, okay? I'm gonna bet on this channel because prior to our wing type change, this was already moving our right aileron, okay? So even though that says right aileron, you can't always depend on it. In this case, it happened to be correct, okay? Now my left aileron is over here, so that's gonna be on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? Now, servo setup, travel, sub trim, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the left aileron, look at that. Now, I'm just gonna move this a little bit. No, it is moving, that's right, I'm sorry. I needed the right aileron, sorry folks. Thank you, camera crew. You see how little it moves? See how small that change is? That is a super small change, but you have a lot of amplitude. Now look, that number goes way higher than 150 because you have what, like 1,020 or something like that?
Yeah.
So you can really set that, fine tune it, and that's just gonna move this surface. That's one of the advantages of using a 7-channel transmitter set with a plane that really technically only needs throttle, ailerons, elevator, and rudder. So you could do this plane with 4-channel receiver. You could use an AR-10 if you don't want stabilization, and you're golden, okay? And then that's a cheap receiver, high quality DSMX receiver, okay? All right, so we're gonna walk out. I'm gonna clear the timer. Elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right, roll left, roll right. That's a lot of throws. I think we're gonna want a lot of expo on that. So what I'm gonna do is, I know you've got some different expo techniques. I'm gonna go in and show the people what I would do, and then we'll fly on both at some point. So I'm gonna set to switch F. I'm gonna go expo, and you're gonna think, Brian, this is like the most simple expo ever. It's the same as what you always do. So I'm gonna have a doubling effect and a halving effect. Now, why do I do that, Mike? Let's see, let me give you a test to see if you actually watch my videos.
Well, so you have a middle more and less.
Yep, I have a halving and a doubling, so I can take off, and then what is the objective of having a halving and a doubling?
Well, if it's too sensitive when you take off, you can calm it down, and if it's too touchy, or if it's too soft, you can't get it to correct, you can turn it up.
Yep, and then why do we want to do that?
Because you don't know what the plane's going to do.
Because I don't want to crash your plane.
Because you might take off and find out the suggested CG is 3 inches off. You know?
Exactly. See, guys, I have one of our regular followers telling you all the things that I've been telling you for years, and he's only. How long have you been watching? It's not been forever. Just a couple years.
A few months.
A few months.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, he doesn't know what he's getting into.
See, he doesn't know what he's getting into. Okay, so we're right in the middle.
Your plan did save me on another Maiden on my first plane I built.
Good.
Because I did not have enough throw, and I threw it into the too much when I found out it was 3.
Yep.
3 inches off on balance, tail
Yeah.
heavy, and I had full down elevator just to get it to level.
And that's why we do this, guys, because we're all about saving planes' lives. It doesn't look like it when I'm crashing into my house. I realize that, you know, but what happens is we try our best to give ourselves the best possible chance of success. And sometimes we still fail. So think about that, guys. If you don't know how to do it, and then you try it, and you don't listen to any advice from anybody, it just doesn't have to be me, it can be somebody else, and then do you think you're gonna find success? You're gonna be on an uphill climb. It's already a steep learning curve, guys, so you need somebody to help you along the way if you're brand new. Or if you just come back to the hobby, it's nice to have somebody that's, you know, played with the new toys, might be able to instill a little bit of help, and that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. So, all right, we're gonna pivot this plane, and we're gonna roll it, and we're gonna let it down. Now, why do I have the plane pointed toward me with the tail toward me?
So the prop's not gonna kill you?
That's one reason. The second reason is so I can see everything. So Mike, come around with us. Man, somebody threw all your manual on the ground. What, was there a robbery?
It's also easier to tell the direction of travel when you're...
Exactly. So first thing you do, elevator up, elevator down. I've done this a number of times. Y'all left, y'all right. Roll left, roll right. Do you confirm that those are all correct? Now, when I deploy the flaps, does it still work? It does. Now, when I do landing flaps, does it still work? Okay, so what's really cool about that is this is all being done through the Lemon 7-channel with stabilization and DSM-P, meaning DSM plus. Okay, so we are throttle cut still, okay? So now our next move is, how do we activate the stabilizer, or is it already activated? So here's a trick. I'm gonna listen. Can't tell. Now, the other thing is, I'm gonna move your canopy or your cockpit or whatever you wanna call this top part. And by the way, I gotta point out, these guns are sweet. And how did you get those guns?
Zeroli Plans sells them 3D printed.
That is so
3D
cool.
printed kit.
Really neat. And then you painted them black? Okay.
And they're actual Vickers machine guns.
That is so cool. Okay, so continuing on. There is a way to activate stabilizer on this, okay? It is on by default.
I've actually have it programmed to channel 6, so if you look.
So, if you go over to here, excuse me, I keep like not showing the telemetry, but I will, okay? So channel 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're on
gear.
Channel 6 is, you mean channel 5?
Channel 5, excuse me.
Okay, good. I was just gonna say, because otherwise we're on the aileron.
No, 6
now,
is aileron,
I wanna talk for a second because this has happened. It has killed many a beautiful planes like this. If you assign your stabilizer on off to an aileron channel, you can do that. You don't wanna do that. Don't do that. Because you will crash, I guarantee it. Because you're gonna like roll the plane and then it's gonna like try to auto level and then you're like, oh crap, what do I do? And you can only like roll so much and then, and you will not figure it out in time. Unless you're that guy who landed in the Hudson River or something, you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Solely.
Yeah, Solely. Captain, if you're Captain Solely, he'll figure it out. All right, so next move. We need to figure out how to turn on gear. This should be easy, okay? Gear on. Oh, look, lights come on. A little green light. It's below the zip tie, forgive us. The green light's off. The green light's on. So that must mean something happened, but what is it exactly? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna lift the tail of the aircraft so it can pivot easily without breaking. Beautiful. Now watch this. I'm moving at the same pace.
Master gain.
Look at that master gain. All the way down,
Yep.
all the way up. Now watch the elevator. All the way up, all the way down. Very good, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
But oh crap, I have way too much off, okay? I'm gonna switch what direction's off. Okay, so I want stabilizer on by default, so I'm gonna travel over, I'm gonna go over to reverse, then I'm gonna reverse gear, okay? So now when my gear switches the normal starting flight configuration, the stabilizer is gonna be on. Remember, this is my preference, you do your preference, but if you're new, adopt my preference so that you can follow my videos. And I say that because Mike has preferences and he's been doing it for almost as long as I've been alive. You are kind of an old guy.
Yeah. Yeah, since it's my preference, take it off of the gear switch so that when I put
He wants it on this.
I have airplanes with retracts, and I don't want to get confused.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
so
I want it
he wants it here on C,
Yeah.
okay? So when I hand this to him, I'm gonna make the change. But when I'm flying, I'm gonna put it on gear. Now why, Mike, I'll explain to you why I'm doing that.
I know.
Okay, so see all these planes in this pile here? Some of them have retracts and some of them don't. So my normal protocol, camera crew,
Yeah.
my normal protocol, and this is something that you can develop for your own brain and your own muscle memory, is safe on off, safe or AS3X. AS3X is always on in my opinion. Mike doesn't fly with stabilizers all the time, so he may not do that, and he probably won't, okay? If I have retracts always take preferential A switch. If I don't have retracts, then they go, this is where AS3X, off, safe. Because we demonstrate the auto leveling in our videos, but I don't use it. I might use it if I need to look and see what the cat's attacking, but that's the gist of it. That's all I do. Now Mike is gonna have a different configuration and that's perfectly fine. He is gonna have so much more experience and so much more muscle memory that would be hard to break, so you gotta do what you gotta do, okay?
My memory tells me when I set up my switches, normal takeoff, all switches back.
All switches up, yep.
All switches up. And that means if you pull the gear up, you pull the gear up. You don't push the gear up.
So that's why this is down. Now also I want to talk about throttle cut for a second. This is a difference of opinion that some people may have. I want that toward my belly because I have found more often than not, it's harder to pop it out than it is to pop it in. Okay?
Absolutely. You set that transmitter down on the grass, it's going to turn.
It's going to push that switch up potentially, which also might retract your gear too. So just a thought. So think about that as you get into your switches. It's not like there's a right way and a wrong way. There's just a my way and your way, okay? And if you need help from somebody like me, or you have somebody at your flight field that is very skilled and you trust them and you appreciate what they're doing for you, maybe adopt their way and then just make some minor tweaks when you're listening to what I've got to say. It's all about, take the help where you can get it. And it's really hard for me to reverse engineer those type of things in the quick comments that we get, because we answer thousands of questions a week. So anyway, okay, getting back to the point. Okay, so we've got it currently on A switch. We'll switch it to C at some point here shortly.
And I usually put flaps here on this street.
The flaps will be here, and that's where we have them.
And that's just for reach.
Yep.
Because I can reach the gear, I can reach the flaps.
And you're a thumb fly, right?
Yeah, I'm a thumb flyer.
You're not a pincer grip. Okay, good.
It depends on the airplane. Like if I'm flying a glider, I'll do pinch. Just because I'm only flying on one stick.
Sure. I always fly thumbs, and my friend Esteban, he flies with his pincer grip. And I make fun of him for it. That's okay. We'll do that in another video. But for today, we've got this thing stabilized. Now, we haven't checked the roll axis. We've already checked this. Now, how did I tell that this was working right?
Which goes up, it should fight the movement.
Exactly. This is going to resist environmental impact. This is not environmental impact. This is environmental impact. You are not the environment. You are the pilot. This is the environment, okay? We're simulating wind. We're simulating a pitch axis moment that shouldn't have happened, okay? We're gonna simulate the rudder and the elevator first because it's easy, okay? I'm gonna lift this up and I'm gonna move it and I'm gonna look what direction it moves and I can see it. Camera crew is gonna have a hard time seeing it. Mike is gonna be able to see it. We can see it in person. But all I'm doing is just going back and forth. And if you're having trouble seeing it, Mike, demonstrate. Put your hand on the surface, very gently. You feel it? Is there any ambiguity in your mind?
It's going against
you can 100% feel it, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you're in question, pick it up and move it. You will feel it, even if you can't see it. Same thing here, elevator, up, down. Now, I can see that very easily, but on camera, it's hard, so we'll try another angle. So all I'm doing is the same thing we do on every plane when we set these up. Up is up, down is down, up is up, down is down. But it's real hard to actually see that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold it and I'm just gonna touch this. Now, Mike, you be the example there. Okay, feel? Okay, you feel it?
Yep.
You can definitely tell that the actual surface is resisting. Now, this is super critical, guys. If you set up a wing type like flaperons or dual ailerons, it's the same basic wing type. Get your transmitter, put it in a safe spot. Don't accidentally shut off your throttle cut. Now I'm gonna roll the axis, okay? Up is up, ooh, backward. Up is up, it's backward. That is a recipe for success if you like crashing planes. So now
I gotta find the right.
there is a way to rotate the output axis on this. And I believe somebody took and ran the throttle and blew the paperwork into a giant puddle on the ground. So while Mike finds that, we're gonna pause and come right back. All right, so we did figure out there's a way to switch it, and we knew that, I didn't know. So I'm gonna press and hold C for 3 seconds. Camera crew's gonna come around here and try to film from above the tail so you guys can see with us. We have one zip tie that's kind of in the way of the light, so please bear with us, folks. I'm gonna slide it down. See, these are the lights we're concentrating on. There's a C right here. Press and hold it for 3 seconds. Okay, now it's one double click. That should reverse the direction. Now, how do I exit?
You
wait.
Just wait.
Okay, now everybody pay attention. And you don't need to, I'm saying just watch the plane. Roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right. Take off flaps, landing flaps, roll left, roll right. Everything is still working as expected, except we should have a reversed direction of correction on the ailerons. We're gonna check all 3 axes every time, okay? Up is up, down is down, up is up, down is down. Now, why do I look at each one? Here's why. Gains all the way up, master gains all the way up. Oh, and one more thing. As we do this test, I want to show you one thing. Mike has not made an adjustment to this yet, so I'm going to make an adjustment and show you how to do it if you'd like. If you want more output, which honestly, we probably have a little bit too much output on the ailerons. Yeah. Right here, camera crew. These are, oh man, that is a really small hole. Mm-hmm. Goodness gracious, you need a dinky screwdriver to get in there, folks. So I have a dinky screwdriver right here.
So you're adjusting the...
I want to show the people all the way up, aileron, all the way up, elevator, and all the way up, rudder. Now, he had them at 12 o'clock. I just put them all the way down to like, as far as they'll turn. Turn up the volume, okay? Now, I've got the gain on the master all the way up as well. Now watch how much they change. Okay, watch the elevator. Elevator up, elevator down. Yaw left, yaw right. Now watch my ailerons. Up, down, up, down. But you know the beauty of being all the way up, Mike? The beauty is, I've got a master gain here, okay? So what I do is I set my master gain all the way up. And I move this thing. Mm-hmm. Or if I don't have time, I shut it off, okay? That's the beauty of all the way up. Now, you can't get in there and adjust those while you're flying, okay? And that would be one pretty decent advantage if you decided to go with the Spectrum offering. Granted, there's more cost than that, but you could set up your slider to increase the amplitude too on one axis, the amplitude on another axis, the amplitude on the third axis if you have the NX10, which is really sweet. But it's also a lot of pilot fatigue while you're doing a maiden flight. So I think generally the rule of thumb is I like to have maximum capability on a maiden. And then what I want is I want that knob to be about the middle where I want it. So when I land, I'm gonna say, just like our dual rates and expo settings, I want this to be in the middle. So if we had way too much amplitude and I find that this thing is like 5% up, then I can do a mathematical algorithm to my little turn knob and just turn it down. Or if I say, it just goes, just immediately starts oscillating its wings, that's an overcorrection from the stabilizer, then what we can do is we can fix that by turning down just the aileron axis relative to the other two on the turn pots. It's very easy to do, okay? Let's say it goes like this. And it's trying to hump and make little baby airplanes. Well, then that means the elevator axis is too strong. Now, of course, you can shut it off right now with the switch, or you can turn down the gain. But even if you have it all the way down and it's still not enough, all you gotta do is turn it off and you'll have no stabilizer, okay? So the other thing that might happen is if you're flying along and it wiggles side to side like a fish trying to swim, then that means you have too much correction on your yaw axis. So you have to turn that down. So it's gonna be a pitch, a roll, and a yaw axis. Those 3 axes can be turned down on the trim pots there. Generally speaking, on bigger planes that fly slow, you need to have more output. I know it seems kind of counterproductive to have a lot of output like that, but on a fast flying jet, you need very, very little movements to actuate an output. On a big surface like this, you're not gonna need a lot of output, but you're not gonna have a lot of air across it either, and it's windy. So we're gonna really be testing this lemon stabilizer right now. So Mike, what are your thoughts after having gone through this with me and you've seen the videos a million times? Anything different? Is this pretty much like watching on the TV?
Pretty much, but
Good.
I'm glad we did because I went through the ailerons multiple times and they were still back.
And you know what? I have crashed multiple planes by having ailerons flipped myself. I crashed, my grandpa made a SIG Duinger 216 and he spent months on this twin airplane. And I crashed it into a curb on its Maiden. It had about a 10-second flight and I felt so bad. He fixed it. We flew it, and yes, I did correct the ailerons. So it's not like it's a non-recoverable thing, but it was never the same, and it caused a lot of work for my grandpa. So
in my defense, I probably would have made it without the stabilizer.
yeah, exactly, and that's true. And see, because that's Mike's skills. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go through one more time, and I always go through one more time. Okay, so up, up, oh, it's off right now. So stabilizer's on, up is up. Oh, I have it turned all the way down. See, this is why we check things. I'm at 50% now. Elevator up, elevator down, y'all left, y'all right. Aileron up, aileron down. Now, don't forget, because you have a wing type set, you need to set your flaps down and make sure everything still works. Elevator up, elevator down, it's hard to see. Elevator up, elevator down. I don't see any movement, but that's okay. We're probably not gonna need a lot of movement. I'm gonna go to take off flaps. Elevator up, elevator down, elevator up, elevator down. Aileron up, aileron down, aileron up, aileron down, elevator up, elevator down, y'all left, y'all right. So what have we established? We have established that not only all three control channels are correcting in our stabilizer, elevator up, elevator down, y'all left, y'all right, roll left, roll right, full landing flaps, roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, everything is done. It seems like your head is spinning by the time you've gone through that so many times. It's very easy to gloss over it and say, it's not that critical, it's good enough. And Mike is probably like dying to get this in the air, because I would be. But truth is,
the wind is pushing it back, pushing my excitement back a little.
The wind has got him concerned, but I'm not concerned at all. So what else do we have to talk about on this? We haven't even talked about the telemetry. Yeah. So let's look at this. This is very cool. Scroll left. Look at that. You have a barometer in there. Receiver voltage, flight pack, altitude. Very cool. Now, if you have a barometer on and you have your vario on, my suggestion is it is annoying when it starts beeping. So don't turn on the audio vents unless you're flying a glider like the ASW-28 or something that you're actually trying to catch thermals with. Because you don't want boop, 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 beep, beep, boop, boop, boop. It's gonna drive you nuts.
I have a question that I don't think I've ever heard you approach. Can you set an alarm for the 400-foot limit?
What 400-foot limit? I'm not aware of this. You mean 399? Yeah, 399 feet. Our alarm just goes off to tell us that we still have another 100 feet to go. But I think you can, and let's talk about that for a minute. Let's look into the, now remember guys, once you're inside this firmware, you're working with a Spectrum product, even though you have a Lemon receiver in there, which is kind of cool. So click. Scroll down to audio events or telemetry will get you the same spot, I think, on this. But I'm gonna go telemetry first. Okay, so auto config's already done. Altitude, double click. Oh, look, max, you can have an alarm, look at that. So I think I'm gonna set an alarm for 350, 351, oh, look, it steps in so many feet. The alarm could be a tone or a voice, okay? So I'm gonna have an alarm with a voice and then status reports and warning reports. Every 10 seconds, I'm gonna have a warning report, okay? Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to volts, okay? Now, oh, remember, we want the flight pack milliamp hours. That's another really good way to do it. I actually prefer that. I wanna make sure my volts are off because that's gonna be annoying. Power box, receiver, flight pack milliamp hours. Yeah, see, you can set alarms for how much. So if you have a
template on there, I think, isn't there? At the bottom, you can select 4S LiPo.
Yeah, I don't see that. But this is flight pack capacity. So 30 amps would not be correct. So 5 amps. How big is it?
4S 5000.
4 is 5,000. Okay, so you do 5,000. And then you can set whatever you want here. I'm not going to set status reports on that. Okay, so receiver voltage, amps, vario, temperature, volts. Okay, so this is where your template is.
Okay.
Okay, so you can go to 4S. Okay. Then it sets your alarms, so you can have an alarm above or below, and you can do warning, voice. But just remember, if you're at altitude and you have voltage, it's going to start talking a lot, and it's very distracting to a beginner pilot. But it's very nice to have this. Now, the other thing too is, watch this. On the main screen, if you scroll over, you could go right to where you have your battery. Now, we don't have the percentage screen on here, but I might be able to go into telemetry and add that right now. So telemetry, I'm gonna take off flight log, I could care less about. How do I change that?
I don't think you can.
Auto config?
Settings?
Yeah, maybe, no, that's not what it is. File settings, no.
You know, just select it and scroll.
That's what I thought, but it's, oh, you know what? Select it.
Inhibit it.
No, it doesn't let you inhibit it. I wonder if these ones are the ones you can change. So altitude, vario, altitude, temperature. There we go, fuel level. Okay, airspeed. Ooh, airspeed, do we have it? That'd be cool if we had, you'd have to have a pitot tube on there
You'd
somewhere.
have to have something, yeah.
Okay, so receiver AS3X Alpha 6 gyroscope. I'm
Probably
looking, what was I
GPS.
looking for again?
You're asking the guy with
The battery.
Oh, can you put the
Oh,
battery
percentage battery.
I wanted to see if I had that.
Let's see.
I think it's a smart ESC thing.
Yes, you're probably right.
Yep, so, well, smart battery. Let's see what happens. Look at this. We have a smart battery, display active. Okay, so let's walk out and see what it looks like. Yeah, it's not gonna give you that bar unless it's got the data line attached. Okay, so we know that we can't do that. So I'm gonna go back into telemetry. I'm gonna change this from smart battery back to, what did we have there before, guys? ESC, I can't remember what we had. Airspeed, fuel level, temperature. We had temperature, which we don't really care about that either. So really at this point, you can play with the telemetry as much as you want. The cool thing is it's in there. And really the biggest piece of the puzzle that I want as a pilot is pack voltage. Receiver voltage is great, but you know, let's get real. You know, the first thing that's gonna die is not your BEC voltage. It's gonna be your flight pack, okay? Your flight pack, if you have 4 cells at 4.2 volts full charge, and let's say 3 volts on a conservatively really drawn down pack, you're gonna be talking about 12 volts. That's still greater than your BEC voltage that's driving all your servos and your receiver and transmitter and all that stuff that's built in. So just keep in mind, it's probably not a big, huge issue. Now, the other thing is, I want to talk about auto leveling on this because I don't believe we have it activated, right? Do you have to actively turn it on?
I didn't even look.
And the reason I'm asking you this now is because I'm going to make an assignment right now. If you look at this, if camera crew, if you come around, if you go over to your monitor mode, you can see we're on a 2-position switch here for gear. And you can see there's a change in state of the lights. Red, and then red and green.
Flip it again.
What I'm gonna do, there's red, that's off. There's red and green, that's stabilized. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into system setup, disconnect RF, and go down to channel assign. I'm just gonna look where gear is on A. I'm gonna change gear to C. Okay, now I'm gonna walk back out. Okay, now I'm just gonna relax, let the ESC get back into contact. And then if you look, there's on, there's something, yeah, it's all the same. So it may not actually make an auto leveling decision for you.
It doesn't even have auto leveling in the instructions, so I don't know.
Okay, and it might not have it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch that back. I just wanted to make sure that the 3-position switch wouldn't just get us into that middle mode, okay? So I'm gonna go back to channel assign. Instead of having gear for C, which is the way you want it, Mike, we're gonna set it back to A for Brian. And then when you fly, we can switch it, because that's that simple, okay? Elevator up, elevator down. Y'all left, y'all right, roll right, take off flaps, roll left, roll right, all that stuff.
Dual rates.
Everything is working, the dual rates. I only do it 90%, you won't even be able to see it.
Okay.
So I just trust it.
You just use the Expo to desensitize.
I do the Expo,
Yeah.
yep. Expo is how I do it. I don't do rates because I don't like giving up the potential for throw if I needed to avoid a tree. Okay, so with that all being said, Mike, thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. You guys have already seen this beautiful plane fly. And so if you're curious, we'll try our best to link to the kits. We don't know for sure if we're gonna be able to do that, but we'll link to the transmitter receivers and things like that.
Covering, yeah.
Yep, the covering. We'll link to as much stuff as we can think of. And then we really appreciate you coming out, Mike, for this demo.
Great.
And we can't wait to see it in the air. It's gonna be so cool. And if you guys wanna help support Brian Phillips RC, the best thing you can do is buy the stuff you're gonna buy anyway, because that's a no-brainer. Everybody wins. The manufacturers, the companies, the people that we work with, you help support all of them. And then you also bring full circle with views to our channel, which helps. So smash the like button, click the bell for notifications, subscribe if you haven't already, and then definitely come back for more. But don't forget, if you wanna support us directly and you can't do any of that good stuff, then we have Patreon and PayPal up at the top of the list as well. But really, the best way to support us is to buy the stuff you're gonna buy and get flying already. And that's what we're here for. So stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips RC. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, this subscriber special, if you wanna call it that. So flying other people's plane. Thanks for watching.